Oh, left the lights on all night. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fox Den. Welcome back to the vlog. And today I had found out that I am not quite done working on these sleds yet. So yesterday I did a startup on all but one of the sleds because it needs an exhaust. And come to find out that it turns out the red Viper has a dead cylinder. I'm pissed because now I have to fix it. But anyway, I figured let's turn this into a little tutorial. A lot of people liked the tutorial on the SRX. It wasn't even meant to be a tutorial, but it kind of ended up being that way. So I figured, why not do it for the Viper? It's mostly the same. I think it's a little easier because it has less stuff on it. But yeah, the sled runs, but it runs kind of rough. So yeah, I'm not going to blab too much because I know there's going to be a lot of new people watching this and they just want to see how to do it. So I'm going to show you guys how to do it. And yeah, that'll be the video. This is the Yamaha VIPER. Of course, this is probably the worst possible circumstance. Ice everywhere, the wood is slippery, and no room. Can't even sit down on that bucket there, but whatever, let's get to it. So, how to clean your VIPER carburetors. So this is a little different from the SRX, being that it's a little easier. You have to remove this bolt here. I do believe it's a 10mm. Following that, we will remove the screws on the clamps on the carburetors, and that will allow the box to pop out, and that will make loads of room in there. As per usual, it's not as hard as it looks. If your screws are rusty like mine, you're probably going to strip the heads on them. If you do, not really the end of the world. Usually they'll just slide off, but yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen here, and hopefully it doesn't happen to you. I actually had that air box out in record time. You actually don't have to remove the top piece to get it out. You can kind of just move the cables out of the way. So that I had that out in about 5 minutes. So nothing complicated about that. So far this is much easier than the other sleds. And you can see we have a lot more room in here now. And we're going to disconnect these fuel lines. Now be careful with these because they might be dry rotted. And if you break those, you're going to have a very bad day. We're also going to remove this coolant line. And this coolant line. You can remove it from either there or right there. I prefer to move it from there because it's just a little easier to get to. Then we are going to remove these clamps down there. And I have a rusty one, so highly recommend that you put some PB Blaster on those things because it might make it a little easier. If you strip them, they should still pop off, but make sure you replace the clamp afterwards. Also make sure that you disconnect this breather line from the air box before you go yanking it out, otherwise you'll break this. So make sure you do that. Okay, so one word of advice when you're removing these clamps, most likely yours are rusty. The correct size Phillips head is key. Just if it doesn't feel like it's fitting right, don't use it, because you're going to strip the head, especially if the screws are rusty. So get a Phillips head that fits in the screw head nice and snug, no play, and get some PB Blaster on there like I did, and you should be able to break those free usually. Just be patient with those. Alright guys, so I found it easier on this side to disconnect the coolant line from right there. It's a little bit easier to access. And then for this side, I just disconnected that one on the side of the carburetor. So I also disconnected this line here. Has 3 wires on it, and you can see where it goes to on the carbs, and eventually ends up here. You don't have to unplug this, just unplug this. Of course, use extreme caution when trying to unplug that. Now we need to disconnect these 2 little wires right here. Again, use extreme caution. They are color coded, so you will be able to see which one goes to which when you're putting the sled back together. And with that, the carburetors are mostly out, and of course you don't have to take them completely off the sled to clean them. But yeah, it's really not as hard as it looks, so don't be too intimidated if you want to do this yourself. It's not that bad. I hope this video really helps you. But anyway, I left all the cables connected to everything. Be very careful with these cables here, because they got pretty stuck together, so that was a little bit of a pain. Just use extreme caution because you don't want to break those. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove the screws from the bowls. Again, I would squirt them with PB Blaster and use the right size Phillips. Again, extreme caution not to strip those out, because you'll be having a very bad day if you do that. And then I'll show you guys what to do next. Alright, so we have the first bowl off, and I removed both jets. They can be removed with flathead screwdrivers. Of course, this one a bigger flathead, and then this one a much smaller flathead. Make sure you pay attention to how these go in. Now that jet typically isn't clogged, it's actually very clear. This is the jet that clogs up all the time. This is the idle jet, and you can see, cannot see any daylight through it, so that's why we're having issues. But yeah, these clog up all the time, so what you'll do is soak this in some carb cleaner for about 10 minutes, and then we'll blow it out with some compressed air, and then of course we'll blow the carburetors out with compressed air, which I will demonstrate how to do. Alright, so we have the jets soaking. What I usually do is just throw them in the carb bowl and then just fill it up with some carb cleaner. So for each carb, we'll just go ahead and spray some cleaner into where each jet goes. Be careful that you don't get this crap in your eyes. And just go ahead and spray the throat of the carburetor. Probably a good idea to open up the throttle when you do that. So let that sit for about 5 minutes or so, and then you're going to take your compressed air. I like to use a head with this rubber tip on it. I do believe this is for inflating balloon, but it fits real nice on these spouts. So you're going to blow some air through right there. That's where your fuel inlet is. You'll blow some through the main, where the main jet usually is. You'll blow some through the idle jet hole, which is that hole right there. That's this one here. You'll blow it through just around the various vents. Just blow air through the carburetor wherever you can. And of course, watch out so you don't get the stuff in your eyes. So here we have our jets soaking in carb cleaner. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to dump that out, and then we're going to blow it out with compressed air, and then we'll spray it with some more carb cleaner through that little tube piece that the can usually comes with. Alright, so here we have the idle jet. Now this can be kind of tricky to unclog. You definitely will want compressed air for this. You can see I have gotten it unclogged. You can see there is a little dot of daylight through it. This is where the balloon attachment is, I guess it's called, kind of comes in handy. So what I do, this is a perfect size where you can kind of just take this jet and kind of stick it in. Of course, keep your finger on the end of this thing, because otherwise sometimes this likes to pop off and you will never find this thing. So, but yeah, it kind of sticks in there, and then you just kind of let some air through. It builds up some pressure, and usually will blow that right out. Now sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't, you need to soak it in your carb cleaner longer. At least 10 minutes is the kind of the main thing. But that's how you clean that. And the main jet, kind of the same thing, except you just kind of hold it up to it. The main jet's not hard to unclog at all because it's so huge. And then we put everything back in the carburetor and make sure the bowl's clean. and then this carb will be cleaned out. Alright, so we got the jets back in, like so. You see we have our main jet here, that's the bigger one, and we have the pilot jet there inside of this metal tube, and that metal tube does come out, so make sure you put it back in the right way. The open end with without the ring around it faces towards the bottom of the carburetor. And this piece here, it tends to kind of just flop around, but it does has these little clips here, and then it's got these little notches on the outside of the jet like this. Just try to get them on there. It's probably going to fall off, but it's not really a big deal. I've pulled these carbs apart before, and that piece is just usually laying at the bottom of the bowl. I don't know exactly what it's for, but just try to get it in the right place just to be safe. And then that's carburetor number 1 done. Now you repeat the same process for the other 2 carbs, and then you put it back together, all in reverse to what we just did. It's really not that difficult. Don't be intimidated by how much stuff is in the sled. It's really not hard to do this. And then yeah, everything in reverse to what we just did to put it back together. It's really not a big deal. So anyway, I'm going to go through the rest of these carburetors and put it all back together, and then we'll see how it runs. Hopefully we have all 3 cylinders now. And that's it, guys. That's how you clean the carburetors in your Yamaha VIPER. Now, like I said, putting it back together is just the reverse order of what you did to take it apart, so not complicated at all, which is why I'm not showing you the process of putting it back together. It's just the same thing in reverse. And if you've done everything right and you don't have any other issues with your sled, it should start right up and run on all 3 cylinders, just like this. And of course, remember, you might have to crank it a little bit to get the fuel back into the carburetors. It may take a little bit for all 3 cylinders to fire, so keep that in mind when you're starting it back up for the first time after you clean the carburetors. It may take a little bit for it to get fully running properly, and just starting up in general. Throttle response is way better. And there you have it, guys. The sled is running good once again. If you found this helpful, make sure you drop a like on this video. If you're new around here, please consider subscribing and joining the Fox Pack today, because we have a lot of off-road stuff despite the channel name of my car. I think you guys will really enjoy that too. And yeah, I really hope this is helpful. And if you have any questions, hit me up on Instagram at SilverFoxG37. And obviously we have more sleds that we're going to be playing around with this winter, so if you're into sleds, welcome to the channel. Consider subscribing, because we better believe there's going to be videos on it. And that is it, guys. Hope you enjoyed and hope you found that helpful. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at SilverFoxG37. Don't forget to follow our new racing club at SilverFox Racing Group. Make sure you drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it and if you found it helpful. Don't forget to subscribe and join the Fox Pack today. Remember, life is too short to stay stock, and it's only illegal if you get caught. Stay foxy. Woo!